2020 continues with Elizabeth Vargas.
The legends have been around for centuries. Stories of King Arthur, Camelot, Excalibur, and the search for the Holy Grail. But who was Arthur? Did this most famous British king really exist?
Here you have this great literary legend, which was the most popular theme of fiction in Europe in the Middle Ages. Now, it goes back to something. It starts somewhere.
One thing is clear. If Arthur did exist, he didn't live in a medieval castle with knights in shining armor.
You have to forget all that, really. You have to throw all that away and pull right back to 5th century Britain. It's a very obscure time. It's a time when there's a lot of internal fighting going on between the various tribes.
Arthur!
And in the middle of that is this extraordinary leader, someone who comes out of nowhere, really, and bonds all these tribes together and gets them all to fight a common enemy, the Saxons.
Let every man, woman, child bear witness that from this day, all Britons will be united in one common cause.
Even people who say there was a real Arthur argue over his true identity. This summer's film is based upon a controversial but intriguing theory. It says Arthur was not a king, but a Roman commander.
He was Roman, or part Roman. He was a Roman officer.
And that his knights, the original Lancelot, Galahad, and the others, were not native Britons, but horsemen from the plains of central Russia, ancestors of the nomadic horsemen who still live there today. They were called Sarmatians. They'd been defeated by Rome, and their men and boys were drafted into the Roman army.
The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius did exactly what all of the Roman emperors did with their defeated enemies. He drafted them into the legions and then posted them as far away as possible.
How long shall we be gone?
15 years, not including the months it'll take to get to your post.
It was a great way to deal with your enemies, short of killing them.
Lancelot!
You'd have to imagine being taken from your home at age 11, let's say, and being forced to become a soldier. You were sent away and never saw your family again. They were servants to Rome. They were like gladiators on horseback.
The Sarmatians were unique, among a very few in the 5th century to actually fight on horseback.
They were incredibly adept as cavalrymen.
They developed the stirrup. Now, if you have the stirrup, you can control your horse, which means you're much more adept in battle at making your horse move the way you want him to move.
This may be why Arthur's knights are always described as skilled horsemen. History shows that the Sarmatians were stationed up along Hadrian's Wall in the north of Britain, that long barricade meant to keep the barbarians out.
Their overall leader, and this is all well-attested and well-documented historical fact, was a man named Lucius Artorius Castus.
Artorius, the Roman name for Arthur. He is the only prominent Arthur that we know for sure lived in Britain in the last centuries of the Roman Empire. There are 12 old Roman forts along Hadrian's Wall where Lucius Artorius and his Sarmatian knight were stationed. One was called Camberglana,
which is strikingly like Camelot. A little bit further down the wall is another fort called Avellana, which is remarkably like Avalon, the place where Arthur is supposed to have eventually been taken when he's wounded in battle.
Another clue, the Sarmatians fought under a dragon banner.
Arthur is sometimes called Arthur Pendragon, which means the head or chief dragon. And he fights, guess what, under a dragon-shaped banner.
The story behind the sword and the stone may also have roots in Sarmatian folklore.
Arthur first became king by drawing a sword from a stone. The Sarmatians worshipped, as a symbol of their god of war, a sword stuck point down in the earth or in a stone.
Arthur has another legendary sword, Excalibur, a gift from a strange and beautiful lady of the lake. Very Hollywood, and as it turns out, very Sarmatian. A hero in a Sarmatian folktale also has a magical sword. In both stories, the dying hero asks a trusted lieutenant to throw the sword back into the water. Then there is the Holy Grail. In Arthurian legend, it is the cup Jesus used in the Last Supper. The legend says that after the crucifixion, it fell into the hands of the man who had buried Jesus, Joseph of Arimathea. For Arthur's knights, finding the cup is their most urgent mission. The story goes that Joseph, or a member of his family, brought the cup to a place called the Vales of Avalon. There's a long tradition that Avalon is this place, Glastonbury, and that the cup is hidden here, even today. So where did the legends of the Grail come from? It seems that in the beginning, the magical vessel had nothing to do with Jesus and wasn't even a cup.
There is an early Welsh poem about Arthur and his men going in quest of a magical vessel. It's originally called a cauldron, but
like
later...
a big pot?
A cauldron, a big pot.
A cauldron of the other world. And the property of this great vessel is that if you put a dead warrior into it, he comes back again alive, but dumb. He can't speak, he can't talk about what he's seen beyond the veil, but he can go on fighting.
And there is the same sort of pot in the Sarmatian folktales.
A vessel which contains exactly the same things: life, inspiration, wisdom, magic.
There are other theories about who the real King Arthur was, other clues that are equally compelling. But the fact remains that there is the possibility that somewhere beneath the fantastic tales of Arthur and his Knights of Camelot, there was a real man.
We don't have enough real heroes in the world today. Everything's fantasy. And I think it makes King Arthur's legend larger when you can look at it in a logical way. Anybody could have become King Arthur. That's what's great about a great hero, is that he's in you. And if it's a righteous cause and you fight, then your name should ring on forever.